On Monday, February 13th, 2017, at approximately 1 o'clock p.m., 13-year-old Abby Williams and 14-year-old Libby German were dropped off near an abandoned rail bridge in Delphi, Indiana. The two young teenagers were going to just walk around and hang out. They were scheduled to be picked up at 3:15 by Libby's father, but they never showed up. The family began to search and then called police. At approximately 12:15 p.m. on the next day, February 14th, the bodies of the two girls were found in a wooded area near the Delphi Historic Trail, approximately 1/2 mile upstream from the bridge. During the course of the investigation, police released this short video of the suspect recorded on Libby's phone. That man has never been identified, and no one has ever been charged with the murders. But tonight, a potential big development in the investigation. Reports of a search in a nearby river. What are they looking for, and how is this connected to the case? Will the murders of Abby and Libby ever be solved? I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And as we begin tonight talking about the Delphi murders, we've been talking about it for years now. And to me, the murder of these two young girls, Abby and Libby, is such a confusing case. It doesn't make sense to me. And I'll start here. Investigators have not released a lot of information. They've strategically released little pieces here and there. But trying to put this all together and trying to understand what happened is confusing. And I'm also confused as to why it hasn't been solved. Still, I mean, it seems the information is there. Let me show you some of the confusing things through the years. Like, we begin with two sketches that were released. They look nothing alike. Different ages, different looks. I mean, what is that? What are you supposed to make of that? You release two sketches, and it's two different people. Are there two suspects? I don't know. There was one person on the video on the bridge. Looked more like the sketch on the left side. But I don't know. I mean, the details, pun intended here, have been sketchy, despite the fact that there seems to be some real evidence here. The cell phone video that was recorded. Like, is that the killer? Is that who we're looking for? If we've got video of the killer, then what are the sketches of? Because you usually have a sketch when you don't have a video. But if you have a video, do you need a sketch? Did someone else see the person that we see in this video? I don't know. I don't know. But it's been released. Obviously, it's important. The sketches seem like they're important. The video seems like it's important. But I still don't. I'm sitting here tonight, all these years later, I still don't. Is that the killer? Then we've got this other development, this recent one, that is the most confusing of all, involving the guy all the way on the left of the screen, all right? Has nothing to do with this, but his image was used, apparently by the guy on the right side, to interact with young girls, because if you look like the guy on the right side, no one is going to interact with you. But if you look like the guy on the left side, and his name was Anthony Schatz, was the name that was used online to, I guess, entice young girls. And they told us, like, anyone who's connected or knows anything about this Anthony Schatz profile online, which apparently is connected to this guy Keegan Kline, who's on the right side here, is somehow connected or could help solve the case or came up during the course of the investigation. It's confusing. I told you it was confusing. But again, this is a lot of information, and I know they've spent a lot of hours, many hours, but like, we're not filling in the blanks here. I don't know. I don't know if this guy has anything to do with it. Then we come to tonight, what we're talking about. Big development. There's a search taking place. But is this search connected to any of that evidence I just showed you, is there any nexus at all? And what are they looking for? Where are they looking for it? We've got to get some answers tonight. We'll try to. That's why I'm bringing in our next guest. This is our best opportunity to try to get some answers. Joining me tonight in Indianapolis, Indiana, hosts of the Murder Sheet podcast. This is the podcast. You don't have to do it right now, but after the show, you're downloading it, okay? Download it and listen to it. We've got Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee, the hosts who are with us. Anya, Kevin, great to see you again. Thanks so much for joining us. Should I be confused?
Yeah, great question. And thanks so much for having us, Vinny. This is a very confusing case. And this is why, through our reporting, we've always really tried to stick with what are we getting out of the investigation? And can we put it in any sort of order or timeline or assign any sort of significance to one thing or another? And we kind of just try to follow up what updates we're hearing about from our sources close to the investigation and through tips from locals, things like that. But it can be pretty hard to keep track of at some point. But this water search going on, I think, is just an indication of there is so much that we don't know, but there are certain things that are sort of coming to light, and they may be something that we can discuss or perhaps make some educated guesses around.
Okay, let's talk about the water search. What have you learned about this water search? Like, what did you observe anything? Did you go down there and see them doing it? Because I think you're the ones that took the pictures, right?
Yes, we went down there and saw them conducting this water search. It's important to note that we can get a couple of glimpses and ideas of what may be going on here through some court filings. Kagan Klein's defense attorney filed a motion with court asking the Kagan Klein's pretrial conference be delayed. And he said the reason for that is because negotiations are ongoing. A couple of days after that, Kagan Klein, who had been in the custody of the Miami County Sheriff's Department since he was arrested, all the way back in August of 2020, paperwork was filed which put him temporarily in the custody of the Indiana State Police. And around that time, none other than the Indiana State Police began conducting this water search at a location just about a 6-minute drive from where Kagan Klein used to live with his father.
Okay, this is significant, right? I'm a former prosecutor. You're working out a deal. To get something, you gotta give something. That's the way it works. So let's put a little perspective first on Kagan Klein, okay? This was the guy who was connected to this relatively recent development, the Anthony Shots profile, where he's interacting with young girls. So he's connected to that profile. He used the picture of this guy who has nothing to do with this, ladies and gentlemen, absolutely nothing. His picture was used for obvious reasons, right? So what connection does Kagan Klein have to Abby and Libby?
So in August 2020, police arrested Kagan Klein on 30 counts associated with child sexual abuse materials. And we obtained a transcript of their interview with Kagan. And in that, the detectives make it clear that they're aware that Anthony Shots was in communication with Liberty German in the run-up to her murder. So she's communicating with him. She believes he's a younger boy, closer to her age, and it's some sort of connection there online. And obviously, that's a deception. This is an older man, an adult, who is communicating with her. And basically, police make it clear to Kagan in that interview that we know that Libby wanted to meet up with Anthony Shots. And you also told one of Libby's friends, oh, well, I was supposed to meet up with her on the day of the murders, but she never showed up. So you're sort of seeing Anthony Shots being a big factor in sort of what they're looking at in terms of what happened to Libby and Abby that day.
That's a big connection, right? And this case, there's you know, every time we go down one road, I'm like, okay, we're getting there. And then I back it up a little bit and say, but this other road looks like has some potential as well, which makes it confusing. But he's in custody now, and you're saying it's his lawyer who said, wait a minute, we're in talks right now, so let's not finalize what we're doing in court relative to what? The child pornography charges?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so, and is there anyone else in his circle? Because here's what I'm thinking. You have information. Sometimes the information is about yourself. Sometimes the information could be about someone else. So is there anyone else in his circle, in Kegan Klein's circle, that we've been talking about or has been mentioned? You said he lived with his father, so that's someone who's kind of in his life.
He lived with his father, and it's important to note that in that interrogation transcript that Anya referred to, police said they had analyzed the communications Anthony Schott had with these underage girls. And it was obvious that these communications that were ascribed to Anthony Schott were actually written by two different people. And at the time, the only other person in the house with Kegan Kline, of course, was his father.
Okay, so what's the status of his father? Is his father still alive? Is he under arrest? Is he just living his life?
His father has not been charged with anything, is not under arrest, and has not been named as any sort of suspect in this. And he's still a free man, still alive, as far as you know. And but we will note that within the communications between Kegan and police, they did make a few references to, knowing that multiple people were using some of these accounts. In some of the child sexual abuse materials related communications that were connected to Kegan's devices, whoever was writing those actually references, his father at some point in some of those very lewd communications. So it's an interesting picture that's starting to form here.
Is there, and again, you don't have to name names if someone's not a suspect. I always stay away from doing that, pointing it. But is there anyone else in Kline's circle, like maybe a friend or, sometimes people who are into child pornography hang out with other people who are into child pornography, share images and other things, which may, maybe they share accounts. I don't know. Is there any indication that there may be someone that we don't necessarily know or may kind of be on the radar but hasn't been directly implicated or questioned or really part of the public knowledge at this point?
Yes, there's actually a very strong hint of that being a possibility, at least. In the transcripts, one of the detectives at one point noted that the Kegan Kline, I guess, was associated with some sort of Dropbox in which there were child sexual abuse materials found. And the detective basically described that Dropbox as having launched a massive child sexual abuse materials investigation, one of the largest in Indiana history. So that certainly indicates that they were maybe using some of these confiscated devices to look into other people who were engaging in this activity online.
Okay, let's get back to the search, and I want to put a map up on the screen so people know. I want to see where the search is taking place relative to some of the other locations here. So Peru, Indiana is where this river is. And how do you pronounce it? Is this the Wabash River?
It's the Wabash River.
Wabash, okay. We got the Wabash River. Kegan Kline's home where is that? Is that it's a couple miles away from where the search is taking place? Is it close?
It's about 4 miles away. I think it's about a 6 or 7 minute drive.
Okay. Yeah, we're looking at it on the map. You can see it's relatively close. But how far away is this from that bridge where we have the video of the man and where we know Abby and Libby were? That's like 40 miles away, isn't it?
Yeah, that's about a 40-minute drive away from Peru.
So
relatively close, but it's not like right next door.
Okay, so we've got this 2 miles. Now let's look at the 40 miles or the 40 minutes away. That's not right around the corner. Okay, this is again where it comes back to my confusion in all of this. Abby and Libby, when their bodies were found, is it closer to Peru, Indiana that we're looking at right here, or is it closer to the bridge that we know that they were at?
They were found nearby the bridge, so the crime scene was very much within Delphi, within that wooded area.
Okay, so this search is taking place many miles, 40 miles away from where the bodies were found. So that brings us back to, what are they looking for? Do we know? Let me ask you this. Have they released how they were murdered?
No, cause of death has not been released by police at this point, which is definitely unusual. That's often something that perhaps police don't go into detail on, but general outlines are given. But in this case, they've been very tight-lipped about it.
Okay. What we're going to do, Anya and Kevin, please stay with us, all right? We're going to bring in some investigators when we come back and try to piece together some of these pieces that have been laid out so well by Anya and Kevin. Plus, coming up next hour. In Sydney, Ohio, a young woman's ex-boyfriend comes to her home, starts breaking through the front door until the woman's father declares he has a gun, then shoots and kills the intruding ex. Tonight, we take a look at the father's police interview. What does it reveal?
Once I realized he was getting in and the door was open is when I shot.
Trevor Summers charged with kidnapping his estranged wife.
Please come home.
A 3-day hostage situation. He's not a lawyer, but Summers is representing himself at trial.
This situation is dangerous.
He's going to have to cross-examine the victim, his own ex-wife.
This jury is in for a trial unlike any other.
The estranged husband kidnapping trial. Coverage continues weekday mornings at 9/8 Central on Court TV.
Now at birdies.com.
Guys. Downhill. Guys. Downhill. Guys. Downhill.
All right, that was some looping video and audio released by law enforcement officials as part of the search for Abigail Williams and Libby German's killer. Now, the girls' bodies were found about 1,400 feet from the home of a man named Ronald Logan, who would later become a suspect. The probable cause warrant for Logan's property, obtained and released by the Murder Sheet podcast earlier this year, specifically states that Ronald Logan was physically similar to the suspect in the cell phone video taken by Libby German, the document reads. Now, Logan's physical build is consistent with that of the male suspect videoed by LG on the Monon High Bridge. And it also states Logan's voice is not inconsistent with that of the person in the video. Interestingly, Ronald Logan spoke with a reporter from Indianapolis news station WTHR the day after the bodies of Abigail and Liberty were discovered in 2017, and look for yourself at the appearance. I think it looks very similar. Let's watch some of what he told WTHR back in February of 2017.
Who would have thought they'd let their children out to do something special that day, take a trip down, and then turn out a disaster like this? The area that they were in is very hard to get to. I mean, you can't get there unless you walk there. I mean, so somebody would be walking with them or something.
Still with us, Murder Sheet podcasters, again, downloaded after the show, Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee. And joining me now in Los Angeles, California, retired FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon, and in Salt Lake City, Utah, private investigator Jason Jensen. Great to see everyone. Anya and Kevin, let me ask you first question. That video, are they calling the person in that video the killer, a suspect, a person of interest? How has law enforcement labeled this person, or have they not labeled this person?
Yeah, a lot of the communication around this case has been somewhat confusing. our understanding is that while not necessarily outrightly identifying the person in the image as the killer, I feel like police have pretty strongly indicated that, they want to talk to him about this case and that they feel that this might be our perpetrator here.
Jason Jensen, you're looking at the man walking over the bridge. We saw the pictures of Ronald Logan, who I believe has passed away, is not alive anymore. What do you see? Do you see similarities? Does your eye see something different than mine?
Vinny, this is a very confusing case because usually I give law enforcement the benefit of the doubt. And in this case, I am completely perplexed why Keegan Kline seems to be the primary suspect, because everything points to this guy, the bridge guy is what they call him, as being the perpetrator, because it's a Snapchat video that Libby took the very moment she was led from the bridge down the hill. That's what the perpetrator says, down the hill. And that down the hill happens to be the property of Ronald Logan. So when you see Ronald Logan 2 days later being interviewed, he's wearing the exact same jacket and the same camo hat. How could you not follow the evidence that would lead you to Ronald Logan being the primary suspect here?
I'm as confused as you are. Bobby Chacon, let me ask you about what's happening now. As Anya and Kevin took the pictures, there's a search taking place. It's 40 miles away, up in a different town, and they're doing the search in the river. What do you think they're looking for, and what do these images tell you with everything you know about this case and the fact that they are very close to Keegan Kline's home, where he lived at the time of all of this?
Yeah, well, because they're close to Kline's home and they're under a bridge, I think they're looking for something that was probably tossed off the bridge. I think they're probably, because Kline's crimes so far have been kind of internet-based, computer-based crimes, they could be looking for hard drives, thumb drives. They could be looking for something like that was tossed off that bridge. People do, I ran the FBI dive team for 19 years, and people do have a desire to drive across a bridge where they think they're right in the middle of the bridge, which is often not the place to do it. They toss whatever they're wanting to get rid of over the bridge into the water. So that picture right there, that gentleman has a metal detector in his hand. He's using it to obviously to find something made of metal. It could be a computer hard drive. They're on their hands and knees because the water, they have those buckets. Those search lines are a grid. They're putting out a grid under the water, so they make sure they cover the whole area. You can imagine something as small as a thumb drive tossed over a bridge, lands in water, drifts. So you'd have to search a pretty large area to find something like that. A hard drive may be a little heavier, may travel a little less, but they're literally on their hands and knees looking for whatever evidence they have. Now I understand that he may have been taken out of custody. I had a child murder case in Toledo, Ohio years ago where I took the person out of jail and I took them to the river where they said they deposited the child, and so I had a better idea of where to search. There is some reporting that Kline may have been taken out of jail into the custody of the state police who are handling this search, or they have at least a dive team nearby. My guess is that they have some information. Obviously, you don't start a search like this without some pretty specific information. They got that information from someone. And so it's a directed search. And it looks like they're looking for something fairly small because they're on their hands and knees in a very, very shallow area of the water. And so to me, it sounds like they're looking for some computer-related type evidence.
Let me just throw this out, and again, no indication one way or the other, because we still really don't know how these two girls were murdered. Could they be looking for a murder weapon also? Is that possible? If it is connected to all of this, which we believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, Anya and Kevin, we believe it is connected to the murders in some way, right?
Our sources basically indicated that this is linked to Keegan Kline and the Delphi case.
Wow. So,
Vinny, they could be very well looking for a murder weapon. A knife, gun, all made of metal. That's why you use a metal detector. That bridge, even though Keegan looks like he lives right on the river, you wouldn't want to throw it right behind your house. that river, that bridge looks like it's the closest transverse of that. It looks like the closest bridge to Klein's house that transverses that river. You get out in the middle and you toss it. That's generally what people do. They feel like the middle of the bridge is the best place to toss something. And if that's the bridge that's closest that goes over the river to his house, he could have very well wanted to go across that bridge and get rid of whatever he tossed in. That's speculation on my part, but it's based on a lot of cases that I worked that are similar, that people do that very same behavior.
So, Jason Jensen, are you as confused as I am right now? Because we are 40 miles away from where these girls' bodies were found, where they were on that bridge, and we're very close to Kegan Klein's home. The Anthony Schatz Instagram fake identity person who was interacting with the girls before they went missing, they wanted to meet him. They wanted to meet Anthony Schatz, the guy in the picture, but it wasn't the guy in the picture, it was someone else. This is confusing, Jason.
It really can be confusing if you're really trying to take a catfish, which what Kegan was, and make him a murderer. Clearly, he lulls little girls into sharing nude photos of them. That's his whole crime. So if you're really trying to take one criminal and make him responsible for someone else's crime, it will get confusing. So in this situation, I think that unfortunately, Kegan Klein was exploiting Liberty and then lulled them into a scenario where Ronald Logan killed them both. So I think it's two crimes, two criminals.
Let me ask you, Anya and Kevin, is there any connection, or have you found any connection between Klein and Logan? Logan, the guy who kind of looks like the guy on the bridge, and Klein, the guy who's giving this information, maybe giving the information leading to the search somewhat near his home.
We haven't found any connection between Klein and Logan. And I think it's important to note that, yes, Ron Logan does bear a certain similarity to the guy in the video. But unfortunately, that image is so pixelated that a lot of people could be said to bear a similarity to that image. In fact, if you go to a Walmart in a rural area in Indiana on a weekend, I think you'd see dozens of people who could look very much like the rich guy.
I'll add that in the 2020 police transcript that we released, police are very clear with Kegan. We don't think you're the killer. We think you know who it is. So I think we need to look a little bit beyond a very pixelated image of a person walking for a few frames. And we need to look up where is the investigation currently. And it is currently focused on Kegan Klein.
My head's spinning, Bobby Chacon. My head is spinning.
Well, look, it's all on, like we've said, we've seen it before. It could be buried in his computer. He could, if it is somebody else that Kegan knows, the proof of that is going to be on a hard drive or on a thumb drive or somewhere on his computer. They're searching in the water for something, right? It's either the murder weapon, as you said, or to me, because it's a computer-related crime, he could have tried to get rid of all his communications with other people, all his communications with these girls, possibly, and maybe there's more evidence on that computer, and clearly somebody told them there's something in that water of value, and you have to figure out who that is and what they're looking for. But that's my speculation, is that it could have come from Klein himself, could have come to somebody else, and to me, they're looking probably for an extension of this network of people that Klein was involved in.
We will continue to cover this, obviously, and I'll tell you one more time, folks, the Murder Sheet podcast. Download it, stay on top of the story. Anya Kane, Kevin Greenlee, thank you so much. Appreciate your time, your insight, and sharing those photos with us tonight. Bobby Chacon, Jason Jensen, great to see you both. All your experience is appreciated, and we'll see you again really, really soon.